What have I done? What have I become? I can't describe this. This is my mid-mic crisis.
Hello and welcome to the Mid-Mic Crisis. I am Bunchu. Unfortunately, not alongside my esteemed colleague and co-host Chamber. Chamber is down for the count with a sickness, has no voice, so I am running it solo today. However, before we get started, a huge happy birthday to the big man. Celebrating, I don't know, his 50th birthday the other day, 2 days ago. So wish Chamber a happy birthday and a speedy recovery. But that said, I am joined by a very special guest today to talk what I think is super interesting. Even if the markets are down, we're talking about trading some crypto. And I'm joined today by the founder of Trench Buddy. So what should we call you? Trench? Is that what we should call you?
Yeah, that's kind of just been what people went with. And it's funny because like I keep thinking Trent, like the name Trent is my real name. But yeah, that's kind of what people have gone with. So
that's amazing. All right, so we've got the killer Trench Buddy dev Trench with us today. We're going to talk all about Trench Buddy and what makes it different, because we don't have a ton of guests on this show. It's a product that I've been using that I'm super interested in, specifically, as you know, from an AI machine learning standpoint. And I think this is a really unique application of that really provides a lot of value to anybody out there looking to get an advantage or an edge in a market that is hard to find one. So that is how I will set this up. I think it's a very cool product. We'll walk through the origin story here. We'll show a little bit of it on screen, walk through some features, talk about how it works and why it's special and all of that stuff. So let's get right into it. Trench, I need to know, what's your background here? How did you get into this? Because I see you all over Twitter, and you're deving at basically the speed of light, from what I understand, by yourself.
yes.
And you're doing really advanced stuff with machine learning, neural networks, all that kind of stuff. So I'm very curious. How did you get started? What's your background here?
Cool. Yeah, so I've been in tech, like in Web 2 tech, for 10 years, just about. Basically only worked at, like, I've actually only worked at things, but only worked at like big companies where the thing exists, you come on, you help one little part, you help do one little part, and then it's on to the next thing. And I've really enjoyed that, and I think like that's actually what makes me have a little bit of an edge here, is dealing with systems that are like huge, like billions and billions of people in scale. And being able to build that way. And then also just, the language expertise that comes with it. So that's my background. And then like 3 years ago, just about, I mostly just work on full stack stuff. So front end and back end. And then, that was sort of the beginning of the AI or ML hype. And I think like this was the very, very beginning of people sort of maybe seeing the application with ML and AI and trading. So I got super into writing, and I'll spare you the details, but just basically this ML algorithm that uses what's called a convolutional neural network, which is the machine learning algorithm that like oftentimes detects things like cancers and things that are in images, patterns that the human eye isn't very good at picking up, but computers are. And what I started doing was I applied that sort of model to stock charts, just regular boring blue chip stock charts. And what I found is that like the computer almost saw that data when you rendered it in a stock chart in a different way than if you just put the numbers into the model. So like, how when you look at a chart, sometimes you can be like, oh, this is a good looking chart. You can't even quite put your finger on it, but there's just something about it that looks good. This is basically the computerized representation of that, with a computer that can think 30 times, or 30, that's an insult, 30 bazillion times, there we go, faster than you can, interpret things in ways that you can't even begin to fathom, but it's doing it in the way that traders often look at charts in this way. And then especially with things like meme coins and crypto, it's almost a self-reinforcing thing where like, the first 10 traders look at the chart and they're like, oh, this is good. It's very illiquid. It moves quickly. And so then people keep looking at the chart and it's like a positive feedback loop. So this basically from the get-go is much different than I think what most products are right now in the crypto AI space, if you want to call it that. So that's sort of how I got started. It was with the stocks. And then I met up with a buddy who's super like I was sort of giving my background as more web 2. He's only worked in web 3 and he's super early, kind of like you. But he like wanted to, sort of collab. And I actually have known him since middle school. So it was sort of like a reunion of sorts. And he wanted to collab on using my models and then my full stack stuff to implement some of the stuff that he had been doing in terms of scraping data on chain.
Cool.
We did that for like 2 years. We wrote like what I believe to be the first trading bot on Base that would basically scan for new liquidity pools, immediately ape in, and it was directly on chain. So it was like the fastest. And then
cool.
10 to 20 seconds later, sell. And so it was just these little incremental things. And I think we started with Base because we thought it was going to be the soul of right now or something bigger than it is at least. But that's sort of where we started. And then it was still really this kind of complex way of interacting with it. Like you needed a command line. It was just for us. It wasn't really something you could explain how to use. But then I saw that, in crypto on Solana, especially with AI-16Z, these agents were becoming really popular. And you could they were just like a glue, basically. We could take all these disparate tools that we made, put them into one sort of cohesive product. And so that's how it kind of started as text-based. And then obviously now, I don't know if you have the tab up where I'm sharing the product, but it's very much not text-based. So, it's very graphic. I can go into what the visualization means, but I started to get a little bit like disillusioned with how crypto and AI were sort of being marketed towards the degens on crypto Twitter, because what most of these like agents are, these chat bots or these Twitter bots or whatever they are, you're sending, oh, hey, this agent, is this a good buy or whatever it is. And then, it has a little character on top. All they're basically doing is taking the data from like Dex Screener, which is already late, and then basically passing it to ChatGPT with a predetermined prompt that they've written, like, you are a meme coin trading expert. This is the data that we have. What would you do? And so I've always like said, like, that's basically like trying to hammer in a screw. Like it'll go in, but it's just not the right tool for the job. And so I like to say we are the Phillips screwdriver of meme coin trading utility. So yeah, that's a little background on the product.
Yeah, well, what I think is really cool about that is, I mean, you're right in the sense that like you're using, I think there's this kind of multiple approach here. What you didn't like about how other crypto agents were processing the data, and then the way you guys are doing it, right? Like,
right.
I think there's a distinction when people hear AI, right?
Mm-hmm.
That right now, that's all they think about, right? They
Right.
think about,
and people got mad at me for saying ML because this is technically more ML, but they're like, no, you have to say AI. No one's gonna care.
Right, but it is. I mean, like, look, ML is kind of what AI has been for the past 20 years, right? Like,
Yeah,
and we're just coming into this like era of the generative AI, right? So, like, I think there's an important distinction there, and they don't necessarily even have to be mutually exclusive, but like you said, they're different tools for different parts of the job. And
right.
I think like when you're talking about something like trading or spotting trends or analyzing those trends in a very fast way and presenting valuable insights from them, like the ML stuff is really, I think, the proper tool. And then you can kind of layer on these other things after the fact, right? So it's like almost like this is the plumbing to all of that other stuff, which I think is really cool and special. And what I love is about this approach is you actually are building a proprietary machine learning model over all of this blockchain data to build something that is truly unique, right? And actually has proprietary insight. You're not just taking Bird Eye API and surfacing the same stuff everyone else is. And I think that's kind of why I love the product initially, and what I found really special about your approach, right? And I think that's worth like really hammering home here on what the difference is between kind of this and what you see everywhere else. I mean, maybe you could just go in a little, maybe not in so much like from a detailed perspective, but why that is special versus like what just pulling data from the AI is. So like, how does, when you talk about using a neural network here, or, you know, when we're looking at the screen, actually, maybe this is the context to describe this.
The visualization.
Like, when we're looking at the screen, what is the relationship between your ML model, right? Like the ML AI stuff you're doing there, and how it's being presented on the screen.
Right. Well, that's a very good point. And so then tying that back to sort of what people are loving about Gen AI is the sort of, I think people thought the most impressive part of like ChatGPT and all of these, you know, the let's say like the beginning of this AI bull run in general was that you're talking to it like a person. People thought that was the most novel thing. And you said you're in your 30s. I just turned 30. I don't know if you remember like Smarter Child on AIM, like the very first chatbot. So like it's kind of going back to that, except now it can actually, it's a little bit better. And so it is very impressive technology, LLMs, which power pretty much all of the AI chatbots that we use today. But the thing that I really have like tried to, I feel like I'm, you know, shaking someone until they get it, but maybe they do, maybe they don't, is that just because you can talk to someone like they're a person doesn't mean that is the most optimal way of like communicating the data. So like in terms of this, like what you have here is like, I call it the degen mode terminal. And so at the very top, when they float to the top, that means that a wallet in our ML network that again uses these very, very bespoke, proprietary, tailored for the job tools to determine what good wallets are. And each of these green rings represents a good wallet. When it floats to the top, that means that one of these wallets in these rings have just traded. You can see the y-axis here, or maybe you can't. I'll make it a little bigger. They've just traded that like within 0 seconds. And so in addition to having the best data, because I literally wrote blockchain scrapers that parse transactions from 20 and counting dexes, you're basically communicating this is a very active token. And then here you can do different x-axes, which like right now it's on market cap. You can do token age, etc. But then on the x-axis, you're communicating, you know, is this more of a risky low cap play or a high cap play? And think of like if you had to type that in or read that sort of text, like with a terminal, even like me telling you like, hey, there's this coin called Rot Fund. It's an 800K market cap. It was like last traded by our network like 5 minutes ago. Like in that period of time, think of how much time I've wasted telling you that versus like you use this tool for just a little while. Now you know that because it's right here and this says that and that says that, it's kind of like riding a bike or driving. It's just like you kind of learn and it's intuitive. And imagine trying to tell someone to, I mean, maybe you've taught your kids to drive. I don't know how old they are, but like, turn
they're
left
2 and 4, so they
please, please don't teach them to drive. Wait like 3 years, but you know, like turn left a little, like to have to communicate, like human computer interface or interaction has been a study for like 40, 50 years at this point about the best ways to communicate data between us and computers. And so it's kind of like funny to me that, okay, now we're going to like the most archaic type, which is the terminal, when the graphical user interface has been invented, when we have all these different ways. And I think of the ways to visualize things, I came up with this, but not to toot my own horn, I think it's a very unique way of doing it that separates us from a lot of other parts. And that's before you even get into the additional like research ability that we have. Like you hover over any token, you can see the creator info from the pump fund creator. So like, okay, this person has created, looks like just one token, which is bonded and it's King of the Hill. This was the highest market cap that it ever got to. You see the description, and then you can click on it, and you can basically see our custom ML sentiment models running sentiment analysis on the pump fund comments. In this case, you could do it on X2. It's just basically like this all-in-one suite that, first of all, communicates which plays are the best plays in a very, very unique way. The data it's getting is different than any other data you're used to. It's from basically using these models that I talked about earlier on charts, combined with using them on wallet networks, which are like kind of visualizations and graphs of which wallets are connected to which wallets. And so, you know, we built up this network. There's over 1,000 smart wallets. I like to call them genius wallets because they're not just smart wallets. They're different than the smart wallets that you're used to. These aren't the ones that are getting followed and pumped and copy traded and dumped. And on top of that, we also obfuscate the wallet addresses so people can't do that. It's just sort of like a fundamentally different approach because I see the wallet copy trading thing as cool, but fundamentally flawed because it's going to inevitably always become PvP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's super interesting. So maybe you can just jump into, you know, obviously this is a proprietary thing, but to explain to somebody what actually makes a quote unquote good wallet versus a bad wallet, because I think that's
Okay.
important to understand.
Interesting. Okay, so that's a great question because that definition has actually changed over time.
Mm.
And there was a big sort of shift in how I viewed that I think really, really increased the quality of the play. So knowing good plays or having insider access to good plays doesn't make you a good trader. Because how many tweets have you seen? They're like, oh my God, I can't believe I sold so-and-so early, or I round trip so-and-so, or bag held so-and-so. Just because they suck at trading and don't have discipline or whatever you want to call it, doesn't mean that they might not have some sort of edge in terms of knowing what to ape into in the first place. Whether that's just intuition because they're good at knowing they're cool, for lack of a better word, and they're not a loser like me who spends all day coding Trench Buddy. They know what's hip and whatever. And you can see, like, I've tried to, again, in my typical engineering fashion, classify everything on the fly by meta, which are always updated. So it could be that. But regardless of what it is that they know, maybe they're literally insiders. That doesn't necessarily dictate are they profitable. And so the metric that most people go by is P&L. Like, did this person sell in time? But that's a very different question than like, can they consistently find plays? So a good wallet, in our definition, is a wallet that basically, for some reason or another, is able to find plays that do high multiples in terms of their peak market cap. And then whatever they do, whatever they sell is not important. But basically, like, are they able to consistently find things that if you bought them when they found them and then had the discipline to sell, and that's actually coming soon, sort of a reminder to sell sort of feature, would you make money consistently? And the answer is yes. And then conversely, bad wallets, which are red, I think I see one right here. They are not just like, oh, they're bad traders again. I'm not just flipping the definition saying, do they always take losses? It's like, do they either, number one, buy coins that just don't do well? And I don't mean like, oh, they bought fart coin at the top. I mean, like, do they like see a coin that's new or whatever, and then consistently it just goes to zero? Or are they involved in some sort of shady activity, which we now have, I would say, the only real bundle analysis tool on the market because all the other ones are inaccurate. I went on a huge tangent in a video, if you want me to send you later, on why they are. But like, basically, are they associated with things that tend to be bundled or rug pulls or something like that? So if they are, then they get classified as a bad wallet. And again, it doesn't mean a play is bad. So like, people are saying, like, I think when Trump, we found Trump number one before Moby. Moby won't respond to my tweets at them about it, trying to challenge them, but whatever. We were, like, as far as I know, the first tool to find Trump. And so like, people
I'll tell you right now, I will tell you right now, as a ringing endorsement, that is how I found Trump. So I found Trump. Yeah, I found Trump via Trench Buddy.
Awesome.
At 10:30 at night and whatever. And I was late, but I wouldn't have found it if I didn't just push it. I mean, I wasn't that late. I was at 3 billion, but it went there very quickly, yes. Right? So like, I saw it. I went to Twitter. I saw the chat going on, and it took me a couple extra minutes to like have the confidence to say, okay, I'm going to ape this.
Right.
But that was one of my confluence points, right? It was like, awesome. I could see bang, 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 all these wallets, the ring just growing bigger. And then, because here's why I had confidence in it. There's three things, right? So we have our own the Discord in the DJ Network War Room where people are talking about, tokens and stuff, and nobody was there. I was the first one to post the contract, or maybe the second one, and nobody was there. And so we all started talking, is it real? Is it real? And then I saw it on Trench Buddy, and the good wallets were pinging. So that was the initial like, oh, there's something here, and then I went to Twitter and nobody knew if it was real or fake, and so I was like, and I just kept seeing it getting bigger. I'm like, fuck it, we ball. Like I've bought 50K shitters this week, way worse than this. Let's go. And so totally, this is exactly how I found Trump, and
Awesome.
which is why I think the product is so cool, because it does, if you know how to use it, give you that extra piece of data that might be the difference between, being late and making, a really, really good trade. So yeah, I hope that goes as a nice endorsement for you, because it
Thank
is
you.
very
No,
true.
that's awesome. Because we found it at 300. You probably didn't. I mean, you said you didn't see this, right? We found it at 364K market cap.
Oh
That's
my God.
sorry, not 364K, 364 million market cap. And that's when the first wallet picked it up. And then, people love to say, oh, but I wouldn't have known because, like, look at all of these that just have one good wallet. I think it was 2 minutes after that, maybe at 700 million, you had like, it would have looked, because we actually you can limit the amount that are displayed, because sometimes you have like 100 good wallets buying something, and so it looks ridiculous. And so I think like after 90 seconds or something like that, we had like 40 or whatever good wallets that had bought it. So like if that's not enough of a confirmation signal, a coin that's literally, now we have this momentum indicator. I don't know if you can see that. I wish we had it then, but like all of the signs would have been there, let's say, and it looks like they were in your case, even without some of these newer indicators, that this was a buy.
Well, I'm a degen, so it doesn't take
right.
much.
Everything's a buy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad that you got an edge, and that you just decided to pull the trigger on that because of us.
Well, I mean, like if you watched it, if you are a
Right.
user of this, if you're a user of this, and even if you're not, right, you can start to see on the screen that some of these here have bigger rings than others. And when if you use the filters on the right side, and you're filtering down to some of the smaller things like 4 good wallets, market cap between X and 5 million, the numbers on this, the amount of tokens on the screen becomes smaller and smaller. So when something hits like that, it really stands out. It becomes this massive thing on the top right corner of the screen that you can't ignore, right? And so that it really depends on, I guess, like a little bit how you use the filters as well. Maybe you could talk really quickly
Right.
about what is there to filter and how you
Yes.
might suggest people use them.
Well, first of all, on filters, now we offer community filters. So you can like publish your own filters. You can say like, this
Cool.
one helped me find this. I'm kind of cringing that I had the "We Are So Back" filter on February 20th, because I think I was going to be like, just went over 200 again on Sol. So this was perhaps maybe the curse that sent us down again. Probably not. But yeah, like let's talk about the filters. So you have your visualization filters, which are basically just like, what do you actually see on the screen? So this is last trade within, and again, it's not like last trade on the token, it's the last trade within a wallet in our network. So we, by default, I found 30 minutes is a good medium, but now with the trenches being so dead, you might want to set it to like 1 hour. And so then you have your x-axis metric, which again, by default, it's market cap. Most people like that. You can also do like token age, right? So you can see like, okay, well, the things that are being traded today, it's newer, like just created, like this is 19 minutes old on the left here. And then, the old ones, which are interesting sometimes to see, like the old ones are coming back. So like this one is almost a year old, just coming back. So you can basically do that for the visualization. And then getting into sort of like what you're filtering by, obviously market cap, that's a big one. We kind of defaulted, I think, at 20K minimum, 2.5 million maximum, because that's like kind of the golden zone if you're really trying to like momentum trade. And we are ultimately, that's who we want to basically be for, is people who like want to find the next play and then probably get out at least 50% or 60%. Not like, I want to find the next, UFD or whatever, although you would on here. But for people who,
I mean, it works the same way, right? You would,
right.
It's up to you at that point how much you want to hold it,
right?
But you would have found it,
right? And so then what you have here, I shouldn't forget about the bundle visualization, is so on the left-hand side here, when you have this toggled on, and it's like a pro feature, which it's so cheap now to even be a pro, I highly recommend it. When you have this toggled on, you basically see the left-hand side is how bundled it was initially, like at launch. The right-hand side is how bundled it is currently. And so it's very important to note that distinction, because bundled used to mean automatically like, oh, it's a scam, it's a rug. But nowadays, it doesn't even have to be the creator that bundles it. It can literally be anyone who has access and knows how to use Jito, which is like this what people use for bundling, and basically snipe a launch and hold a bunch of tokens in a bunch of different wallets that look different. Anyone who can do that can, basically bundle a token. So it doesn't inherently mean there's anything wrong with it. But it does mean that if it is bundled, you probably want to wait at least to see what happens. And so that's sort of the meaning of showing current and before. And we have a legend because I put these little emojis on top. But like, for instance, like, so if it's clean, it was never bundled. If it was currently bundled, like the yellow triangle, that means like it's still just as bundled or almost as bundled as it was. If it's exiting, those are the interesting ones, because like those could become the ones that become runners if the bundle gets out and it doesn't go to zero. But if it does go to zero, you see the dead one on the left, where like that's basically every rug pull you ever saw, right? Because like it basically, yes, the bundle got out, but that means that a bunch of scammers basically dumped on everyone. That's the ultimate meaning of it. And unless there's some reason for this token to be super special, it probably won't ever go to where you want it to be again. And so I do that just so that people know, like, okay, this isn't like some gem necessarily because it's so low cap. It's probably indicative of it's over.
Yeah, right. Interesting. Okay, so we only have a couple minutes left because I unfortunately have to run early today.
No worries.
I have to catch a flight. I'm out to East Denver. Okay, so real quick, you mentioned earlier. I don't even know what you're showing me now. I'd love to.
Oh yeah, this just launched. So this is basically like people from this wallet also hold this. Purple means they're whales in that.
That's cool.
Super useful.
Wow.
And I had to do the hardest part was optimizing your computer to render it, not even the actual data itself. So that's why it took so long. But yes,
that is incredible. Okay, so that's super
literally
cool.
launched today. In fact, it's only in the beta. I tweeted the link to access the beta. I just I have this policy where I don't launch right before I go to bed, because then I'm up all night. So now that's what I do now. It's just beta.
That's super cool.
Thank you.
Okay, and then the one question I did want to ask, because I do think I've read your tweets on this. I've heard you talk about it. I do think it's a differentiator, and you were just talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
What makes the bundle detection that you have here different than what's out there?
Right. So what these bundlers have figured out, you have all these bundle bots that show you like this is X% bundled. I don't know if you've noticed this. Oftentimes it's like 90% or even over 100%, which is like literally impossible to bundle something. That's like saying like I
give 110% effort.
Right. Into bundling it, sure. But in reality, no, you can't hold more than 100% of anything's supply. The reason for that is because what these wallets are doing is they're sending tokens like it's like musical chairs, A to B, B to C, C to B, B to D, whatever, just like unnecessarily or seemingly unnecessarily, because what they're doing is these bundle detection bots just sum up the total volume of tokens transferred between wallets. So like it would basically see me sending you literally one single token a billion times, the same as me sending you a billion tokens. And they do this because it basically devalues the number. People learn not to trust it because like, okay, we can basically make it so that every token that we bundle looks like it's 500% bundled because we're just sending things multiple times to different wallets. What mine does is it literally essentially, this is kind of the algorithm that was like the light bulb in my head that I don't want to just totally publicize, but it basically treats every token sent from any wallet to another wallet each time it's sent as like an NFT. Basically turns every non-fungible token into a fungible token, because that way you're actually able to track.
So you can only count it once and you can track it.
Exactly.
Yeah, cool.
So that's basically the secret sauce, and it does it more efficiently. So it's literally doing this live. It updates the actual current. It can track the bundle, the initial, within 30 seconds, and then it's updating the current bundled percent literally every 5 seconds, which I don't know if you've used those bots. They're super slow. So like this, you will know the bundle information the second it comes on the screen. Like you and then thereafter you can watch basically the bundle percentage drop, hopefully, and it not go to zero.
Yeah, this is super cool. I love the approach. I think
and that'll be a Telegram bot also, like that I'm just going to basically market to people, like send 0.2 SOL or whatever per week or whatever. Because I do feel like that in and of itself is like,
it's a total game changer. Yeah, I mean, it's the thing in the group chats that it's almost talked about most, right? It's like how much supply is held by one person. It's one of the big red flags on like the photon filters and all that stuff. So super cool. All right. So lastly, cool. I think like the I think we've done a really awesome job in a short amount of time talking about why this is a really differentiated and unique product.
Mhm.
I think like uh, you mentioned it, right? How do you get access to the pro stuff? Because
Yeah,
a couple 8 weeks ago,
it's
pro
confusing.
access 8 weeks ago, pro access was you had to hold a ton of token, or not a ton
Right.
of token,
It's
but it
still the
was
same
expensive,
amount. Yes, the
right?
value. So,
Yeah.
okay, a few things on that, and I'll go really quick because I don't want you to miss your flight. Number one, we're offering a free tier very shortly where you can just visualize your own wallets. So, no, you won't get the plays, but if you have a bunch of wallets that you personally like to track, you can see basically everything I showed you here in terms of the information. You can even fetch the information like the sentiment analysis for free. And you can also, see that web I showed you, which I think is actually very useful. Number
Mhm.
two, I'm going to clarify the holding tiers. That's been extremely confusing. Documentation has been my weak point, along with marketing, and maybe not tweeting so much.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry, you just ship at rocket speed.
That's
So
how I do. But
deal with
now
it.
it's like with this free thing, I know there's going to be a lot more users, and I do like explaining things, so like I want to do it in a concise way that's useful to people. So there will be an in-app tutorial, there will be docs, but yes, base level, just like to get 95 or 90% of it, 500k trench, which I'm looking at my sad chart right now, is around $500. So like you can always
Awesome.
sell it too. And in addition to that, and also, yeah, here's basically it'll automatically scrape the latest tweets for you, give you a sentiment analysis on it, talk about key entities being mentioned in those tweets. Anyway, that's that. But also, I'm now going to also offer I'll call it Trench Pass. I have to come up with a stupid name for everything. But basically, that's just like again a subscription model. But the nice little bonus about it is a certain percentage of what you're paying each week, month, I haven't decided yet, will go towards a minimum holding requirement. So like let's say like it's 20%. If you pay and so that it equals basically the 500k holding requirement, which will never change, by the way. I had people call me out saying, you'll see when it goes to zero, you don't want to put it. I don't care. I have my own, whatever. I don't care. But then basically you can put a certain
If it
percentage.
goes to zero, that means the trenches are dead, like
Yes,
so
yes. And on that
that's
note, we're also going cross chain, BNB, Base, ETH, Hyperliquid, and SWI later in the week.
wow.
But yeah, basically the Trench Pass is just like you can kind of like rent to own furniture, except not a total scam. Basically, like you pay a subscription fee, you can cancel at any time, whatever, and then part of that fee goes towards the minimum holding requirement. It says if you bought, 20% of what you had sent in Trench. So then eventually, even if you're never able to actually afford it outright, you're kind of paying down a down
Oh,
payment
that's
on
cool.
access to Trench Buddy. I feel
Yeah,
like that's
that's
just a
super
fair
cool.
way to do it, because my thing has been like
Super fair.
I never want to gouge people. That's just not my goal. Anytime I do require a premium, like for a higher feature or whatever it is, like the reason I'm doing it is
Well, it's
because like
because
I'm
it costs you
spending
money. It costs you a
literally
ton
I'm
of money
spending
to be faster.
$3,500 a month on this thing. And so like
Yeah.
if I did that, that means it cost me money to scrape extra data. So like for the bundle visualization, and I do actually give you the percentages for free, like because I feel like it's so useful. I don't want to be that greedy. But the visualization, it's like I have to pay hundreds of dollars a month for proxies to scrape Jito, which is the bundler API for the data, because they rate limit. Like there's reasons. If you really want me to break down my expenses, I will. But I hope people understand at this point, I'm not in it really even for the money. I'm just in it because I want to build this cool, dope ass product.
Yeah, and it is. And I think it's like
Thank
one of
you.
the most differentiated things that I've seen in a while. As somebody who's building something that I feel is similar in the sense of like different than what's out there, building a
Right.
real product and
That's needed.
with the
Point.
intent, with the intent to build something different and valuable. I really respect what you've built
Thank you.
here. I love it. I love the approach. It's a unique way to approach the trenches if you are
Right.
in the trenches. And so lastly, as we finish up here, where can people find you, and both, I guess, yourself and Trench Buddy? How could they get involved?
Okay. Well, I just bought, it's funny you say that. I just bought a bunch of different, what I think are valuable domain names related to Trench just last night at like 3 a.m. But main place is go to trenchbuddy.io. Spelled, if you can't spell it, frankly, we don't want you using this. It's unless you're ESL, in which case I feel bad.
That doesn't count. No,
You'll
that
figure
doesn't
it out.
count.
Trenchbuddy.io or just x.com /trenchbuddy. Those are the main places. And then we have like a link tree. It's link.tr or whatever the link tree thing is that they try to do all fancy, like /trenchbuddy. So that's where you can find me.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, this has been really great. It's been
This is
awesome to
awesome.
connect with you. I
Tell
hope
your ETH buddies that Trench Buddy will be on ETH base and BNB very shortly.
I think that's going to be super helpful
Thank you.
because the trenches exist everywhere, and
Right.
I think we're all just trying to find information and alpha
Right.
fast. I think what we've learned in the past couple of weeks here in the market is the edge you think you have is even smaller than it might
Yep.
appear. So you need to be able to give yourself an edge anywhere you
Yeah.
can, and I think this is something that does that.
Right.
So
Hayden
go
Davis,
check
if
it
you're
out.
watching this, you are not allowed to use Trench Buddy.
He's not. He's a trench foe, not a trench buddy. That's
Trench
it. So, that's
yes,
it.
yes, he is.
Awesome. Well, Trench, this has been really, really great. I appreciate
Awesome.
your time. I'm
My
sorry we had to
pleasure.
cut
Thanks
you
for having
short
me.
today.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I think this is the perfect amount of time because, like, I'm going to share this, and people ask me, like, "Can you just give a general overview?" This is it.
This is
you get
it,
it for
man.
free,
This is
bro.
great.
So
Perfect.
thank
This
you.
is awesome. Awesome, man. Well, this has been great.
Awesome.
Until next time, keep the mic hot.
What have I done? What have I become? I can't describe this.